everyone, it's Meg Carpenter here. I'm the CEO at Ficomm, and I am super excited to be joined today by Gabe Garcia, who is leading the RIA client experience for SEI. And today, Gabe and I are going to be talking about budgeting for growth in 2023. And here at Ficomm, we are talking with financial advisors and executives at advisory firms across the country about how to think about next year, how to think about spending for growth, looking at your budget, and certainly in terms of what's going on today in the market with the market uncertainty and volatility. Does that or should that change anything that executives are doing when they're thinking about their budgeting for growth for next year? So Gabe, we invited you to join us today because you have spent your entire career working with executives at RIA firms. And so before we hop into the budgeting topic, just help our listeners and viewers sort of contextualize your experience. I've been lucky to be able to call you a friend for many years. We've worked together in prior lives, but I'd love for you to just share a quick bit about what your role is today at SEI and all of your experience with RIA owners, executives, and advisors.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, first, thank you for the invitation. It's exciting to be here, and it's a thrill to be in such great company. And I'll give you the quick bio. So I have spent the bulk of my career working in the industry, consulting with RIAs, being part of leadership teams at various custodians, and even worked inside a very large multifamily office RIA for about a year, heading up corporate development, mergers, and acquisitions. So I've had the opportunity to kind of see the industry from a lot of facets and engage with firms as we've had this evolution from really what was individual advisors and books of businesses turning into businesses and turning into real enterprises with professional management, and be very innovative and drive evolution for the clients and families that they serve each and every day. And as you mentioned, you and I have known each other for years and worked together in various ways. And this conversation around marketing is an exciting one for me to have, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for enhancement and improvement in how many executives and principals and founders think about the marketing engine and the strategies and tactics that they're deploying.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you for that context. And I know that you've had endless conversations in boardrooms with executives like I have, right? Like, we've been around the industry. We have good conversations in good times. We have tough conversations in tough times. But really, when it comes to business planning and growth specifically, that conversation has evolved so much, right? And I think that in 2022 and looking ahead to next year, there's just such tremendous opportunity for RIAs to accelerate growth in ways that they haven't before. But it takes a pretty concerted focus and effort. And then when you couple that with like the uncertainty in the market, and we all know how RIA executives and financial advisors are compensated, there's a direct connection. Like, it all sort of blends together in a way. And what we're trying to do with this series is just help people like cut through the noise and have a really clear focus. So specifically as it relates to budget and the work that you're doing at SEI with RIAs across the country, when you're helping them think about budgeting for next year, specifically to drive growth, like, where are you helping them think about where they could potentially spend more and double down? What are the opportunities that you're discussing with your clients?
Yeah, great question. And actually had lunch with the CEO founder of about $1.5 billion firm with 38 employees. And I said, I'm going to be doing this interview with Meg. I'd love to get real-time feedback around what you're doing and the opportunities or challenges. So I'll share that story to kind of lead into a more specific question around what people can do. And he shared, I'm going to quote him. He said, we have gotten so accustomed to spending nothing that the idea of spending something to grow our business and the lack of immediate gratification is foreign to many in the industry. And what he was alluding to there was really that this industry has been built primarily through personal relationships and referrals. You know, over 2 decades, if you look at the studies, in any given year period of time, most firms are growing 70 to 80% of their organic growth is from referrals, from clients and centers of influence. And it should be, right? This is a relationship business. It's a personal business. And with the tailwinds that we've had over the last decade, the current calendar year aside, we've had great market growth, which has driven revenues and allowed people to invest and generate great operating margins in the business. But I think that's created a little bit of atrophy in the marketing muscle. And it's been viewed more of an expense or a cost to manage than an investment in the future of the firm. So I say that not to say we shouldn't be engaging in relationships and leveraging those relationships to serve others in meaningful ways, but the opportunity to think about marketing in the marketplace today and be as innovative and evolutionary as we've been with the client experience around wealth management and sustaining wealth and achieving wealth over extended periods of time needs to be deployed in the marketing engine. And what I mean by that is the consumer, if I could use that term, Meg, that we're confronted with today is very different than how this profession started just 20, 25 years ago. Built by boomers for boomers who have a very particular purchasing process. And when you think of Xers, myself, and you think of millennials and Gen Z behind it, the build the relationship, build trust first, and then we'll do business model has been inverted. Pre, during, and post diligence is being done by potential clients ahead of time, and they come ready to sign up and engage with you and say, we'll do the relationship and get to know each other part later. And I've seen personally firms who are activating opportunities, never meeting clients in person in a very short sales cycle because of their digital presence and communication that they have in the marketplace. So to your very specific question, I think all of the things that we've done historically, client events, prospecting events, content, et cetera, is critically important, needs to be enhanced and redoubled. But the digital, social, SEO, paid advertising channels that may be foreign to folks are areas where you can think about your messaging, how you're promoting your brand, how you're creating engagement. And that requires expertise. Just like I don't manage my own family's finances, I go to an expert to help me with that. I think in marketing, you need to either have that in-house or partner with great partners like Ficomm.
Ooh, there was so much good stuff there. So I want to go back to the conversation that you had with your client who was talking about, we've really never spent before. So thinking about increasing from 0 to 1 feels super foreign. So as you're working with your clients, Gabe, at SEI, and you're having that conversation, because you and I both know that conversation happens across the industry all the time. You can call it inertia, you can just call it like lack of experience as it relates to marketing because of what you said about the primary driver of growth has either been market movement or referrals. So when you're speaking with your advisor clients, your RIA clients at SEI, and they've never done it before, how do you get them past go?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is first the self-awareness of I haven't done anything. So thank you for the opportunity. We have a great expert here in-house, Shauna Mace, who heads up our practice management consulting, and we have a growth lab. What's that?
She's amazing. Shauna Mace
She is amazing. She's launched her team and our growth labs site. Don't have to be a client to leverage it, where there are practical tools and libraries of videos to talk about marketing strategy, objectives, tactics, and execution. And quite frankly, create a forcing function for people to kind of put on paper, what am I doing? What am I looking to accomplish? What hasn't worked? And go through an 8-step process to put on paper what is our marketing strategy? What are we looking to accomplish? How much have we spent? And just ask those basic questions, which is in parallel to the kind of discovery that RIAs do with their clients about their personal goals and finances. So there's a parallel duality almost of the experience of how do you do your own discovery and planning for your business when it comes to marketing. So there's some great resources there. But the real question is really to think about, what are you trying to achieve? Who is your target market? What differentiates you with them? And then how do you leverage the great opportunities to engage and create awareness so that you can have conversations with those potential clients over time? So the content that you're creating, how do you leverage PR activities? What does your website say to people? How do you promote your credibility and be seen as an expert in your community? And I say these things, and as I'm saying it, I'm thinking that people are saying, well, that takes a lot of time and money. And the reality of it is, we don't need to be Apple, right, in our industry, but we do need to have a presence and an awareness back to the different buying behaviors of the different generations and demographics that the RA community is serving today. So thinking about, how you want to grow, who you want to grow with, and most importantly, what is your budget? So a little sidebar to your question. My biggest pet peeve when working with firms is that marketing budgets are severely underfunded historically. The typical firm is spending less than 1.5% of gross revenues on what they deem marketing activities. So to your question of, how do you engage them? First thing is, what do you define as marketing? And in many cases, what goes in the marketing budget and what firms identify as marketing are things like donations to charitable and philanthropic activities, which are very valuable, right? But it's usually very reactive, a request by a client or a partner in the community to support a philanthropic or charitable event. And that's fantastic, but it's very serendipitous and it's very reactive. So a lot of budget in many cases is allocated there. So I start with, what do you do for marketing? And the inbound, outbound conversation, and how are you engaging in the social digital space in this world today? Critically important.
The point about the charitable donations too, and we have a similar conversation with our clients here at Ficomm, is that doesn't really scale across your client base, right? So if you're making a charitable donation on behalf of what the client's philanthropic interests are, you bought a table at a gala, you don't get as much leverage across your client base because it's for that specific client. And so to your point about defining what is marketing, where are you spending? I mean, those are just very simple, but quite critical conversations to have when you're approaching how I'm going to continue to grow into 2023 and beyond, when, to all the amazing points that you've made, it's just different today. And in addition to the different preferences between generations, when we're talking about Gen X and millennials and then Gen Z behind us, I've also seen that with the boomers, when you remove geography as an asset for advisors, which we just saw happen, and that pace of it accelerated during the pandemic because you've got the ability to connect with people virtually. That also has, I think, really changed how people are connecting with even the boomer audience. I mean, I think the change in consumer preference is felt across generations. And you have to think about too, where are you competing as an advisor when you've got large global financial institutions that have massive marketing budgets and they're competing for the same attention that you in your individual geographic market, you could be going head to head, even though there might not even be a presence of that large global financial institution in your community. But to your point earlier about this being a relationship business, like that shouldn't really scare advisors, because consumers today, they want to have a relationship with someone they trust. Like that hasn't changed. So it's just really about how are you creating that connection in a virtual way, when we know with certainty, and there's data that supports this, that everyone is going to validate you online. So even if they're referred, even if you're an advisor and a prospect was referred to you by a client who's a raving fan, they're still going to go and check you out online. And we have advisors who come through our advisor marketing boot camp who give us really amazing data around their conversion rates being really high from cold prospects, because they're out there digitally, they're on social, they're on YouTube, they're doing podcasts. And so their prospects have the ability to not just validate them, but to really get to know them. And to your point, they're sort of making decisions before any relationships are made. So I hear you loud and clear on, I hear you saying that digital is a place where you'd sort of double down your marketing investment for growth in 2023 and beyond. Now, on the other side of it, what are you talking with advisory firms about when it comes to budget cuts? Like, what would you say if I'm hearing you say double down on marketing, get really focused on improving your digital efforts? What's on the flip side of that?
Yeah. So let me start with budgets, and then what's on the flip side of that. We know revenues in the industry, 97+% of firms bill based on AUM. So it is a difficult market environment, which creates compression in top line revenues and creates bottom line compression in profits. And barring extenuating circumstances, marketing should not be a place that people should be looking to reduce budgets. And quite frankly, I think they should be doubling based on the data that we see that most firms are spending 1.5% or less. If you think that the typical RIA today is around $500 million of assets under management, somewhere in the $4 million of revenue, you're talking about $40,000 to $60,000 of marketing budget. And some of that budget is misallocated, as you and I discussed, of what they count as marketing expenditures. So the ability to say, if I double my marketing budget, what is the return on that investment is quite significant. We see the top performing firms spending 50% more on marketing budgets as a percentage of revenue, generating 2x in organic growth from new clients. And they're spending that on the things we're talking about here: presence online, engagement, credibility building, delivering that trust validation that used to happen face-to-face, virtually or digitally, and the activities that come around that. And the technology today with great partners is very insightful to give you the data to target not only the types of clients you work best with, but geographically or not geographically, people in transition, executives, et cetera. So you can be very smart and very wise about the budget that you're spending. So in this environment, saying, Gabe, you just told me to double my marketing budget and we're having a tough top line revenue year because of market fluctuations and volatility. I will say this: the advice that many professionals give their clients in times like this, of if you miss the best 5 days of a market, because you're trying to time it, it will have severe implications to your long-term success. I would say it's time for us to eat our own cooking in the RIA industry. Being cyclical and increasing or decreasing budgets and activities based on outside influences could have the same long-term effect of your business, and the compound effect of bringing clients in today that will be 15, 20-year relationships, what that means to your business, in a very short amount of time, 2-3 years. So if you're struggling with making that decision of how do I manage my P&L in a difficult environment, there are plenty of places where firms can take a look without undermining the client experience or degrading the infrastructure. And what I mean by that is that many firms have done the Ron Popeil set it and forget it. They've engaged with vendors and contractors for various services and haven't revisited it in years. And I think putting some of those relationships out to RFP or just engaging on a cost discussion would be very wise. There are sometimes embedded expenses in the P&L that people aren't aware of, kind of like all the Netflix and Prime and Hulu subscriptions that exist at my house. I need to reduce those. So there are places where you can make some meaningful reductions to find places to not make a budget cut in marketing. But absent all of that, I think it's a priority to take a good look right now. Disruption creates opportunity. People are online asking questions they may not have been asking 2 years ago when the market was on fire. And that creates opportunity for you to find them in a moment in time where they're looking for answers and looking for something better.
Gabe, your insight is so valuable. And I know that it's because of all of these conversations that you're having with RIA executives across the country. You're on the front line, and so you're seeing it every day. So thank you so much for being with us. Once again, Gabe Garcia, he's the head of the RIA client experience at SEI. Gabe, it's so fun to be together with you. Thank you very much for being with us. And I hope everyone will check out the SEI Growth Lab. I also hope that people will check out what we're doing at Ficomm. We're putting together a lot of resources for you on this topic specifically. So as you're approaching your growth for 2023, how do you put together a budget? How do you think about what should go into that budget? And really what we do at Ficomm is to help you, the advisor or the executive at an RIA firm, to make the decisions that are going to work for your business. What works for you does not necessarily work for anyone else. So we help you to build a lot of frameworks that will work specifically in your business. So thank you, Gabe, and thank you everyone for watching.